Mayor Jennifer Sorensen, Councilmember Jeff Edwards,
Here.
Councilmember Joe Canal,
Here.
Aaron Hanal,
Here.
Councilmember Sheena Hickson, here, Town Attorney Kyle Ridgway,
Here.
Chief of Police Mike Thompson,
Here.
Fire Chief Leo Malson,
Here.
Public Works Director Ron Emmett,
Here.
Town Clerk Janelle Underwood, and Ms.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a motion to approve the agenda.
So.
Second.
Second, all fair say aye.
Aye.
Okay. We have a motion to approve the consent agenda items A, B, and C.
So. Second.
Second discussion. All fair say aye.
Aye.
Item 2, Resolution 5-2020, a resolution approving an addition to existing building on 86 Copper.
Madam Mayor and Council, before you tonight is a resolution 5-2020. This is a resolution approving an addition to an existing industrial building located at 86 Copper Avenue on lots 6 through 8 in the south, 35 feet of lot 5, block 3, Oildale Acres, town of Evansville, in Trona County, Wyoming. What they're wanting to do is to construct a 12 by 24 addition on the front of the building. They've had the property surveyed. The total square footage of this proposed site plan is 274 square feet. If this is approved, then they would need to go forward with their building permits, electrical permits, in order to start the construction process of it. So it's brought before you tonight for approval.
I see that we got a do pass recommendation from
Town planner Scott
the
Brown?
town planner.
Yes.
Okay. I have a motion to approve resolution 5-2020.
So. Second.
Second discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Item 3, ordinance 6-2020, an ordinance to amend the employee handbook on second reading.
Madam Mayor and Council, brought before you tonight is ordinance 6-2020. This is an ordinance amending the Evansville Employee Handbook to add fraternization policy governing employees and town officials. Brought before you tonight on second reading.
I have a motion to approve ordinance 6-2020 on second reading. Second discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, item 4, ordinance 7-2020, an ordinance adopting animal control regulations on second reading.
Madam Mayor and Council, brought before you tonight is ordinance 7-2020. This is an ordinance establishing the animal control. It was passed on first reading the 13th of April, and it's brought before you tonight for second reading with discussion on proposed amendments to that animal control ordinance.
Chief, do you want to start us off on where
Um,
we go? Where we want me to?
So under 5.1.1, G is an addition, or G is going to be amended, or should be considered to be amended to the language of a combination of no more than 4 cats or dogs will be allowed in the town of Evansville unless a kennel permit has been obtained. Section 5-4 of this chapter governs kennels. There was some discussion about how many animals, cats, and dogs, you guys wanted to add their residence before they got a kennel permit. So this is a start point of that language. The other part of this particular section 5.1.1 under J, which got added down, is the registration fees. And I put in some essential basic language of what the registration fees can start as, if you want to leave them that way or adjust those. So I think the easiest way to move forward with this chapter is we just take each one at a time and make the amendments to each one as we have a discussion. So
So 5.1.1.
5.1.1.
Any discussion, questions? I'm okay with 4 cats and dogs. I feel like if you're more than 4 cats or dogs, you're looking at killing or in town.
Is that 4 animals altogether, or can you have 4 cats and 4 dogs? 4 rabbits, 4 chickens?
It's 4 cats and dogs.
Yeah, it's any combination of, but not more than 4. Conversation Mary and I had at one point as we were going through this, but again, open for discussion. You guys might want to up it, separate, change language, but we had to have a start point.
One of the concerns I had with this kind of ties in with the kennel is the way that that language reads, that anybody that has or gets rid of more than 6 dogs in a year, up to 26, has to have a kennel fee. Well, that would mean somebody that Joe's cat got my cat pregnant, I had kittens, and now I have to register a kennel.
Do we have language in there that talks about like, because there's some breeder and kennel language in there that talks like if you have, I'm pretty sure maybe.
If I am a breeder, and that's what I'm doing, but I don't believe I should have to pay for a kennel fee because I just have a litter of kittens.
Would it encourage people to get their animals fixed though? I understand what you're
Is
saying.
there an age?
Do you guys gonna say,
in there?
yeah, with the age stipulation, like same thing with rabies, like if they don't,
It just says we have to get them. Would it be easier to address that in the kenneling section? than
Yeah, it may be, since we can't,
Yeah,
I just wanted to
I'm
bring that comment.
And I see where you're going with this, and I understand that, and I'm thinking, I wonder if it could be easier for us to address it, language there than here, how, thoughts?
Yeah, the kenneling section makes sense.
Okay. So I think, the discussion on, let's start with section G. Do you guys want to leave it at 4? Do you want to change those numbers? Do you want to change the language at this point on that?
This is just dogs and cats.
yeah, so if you have like a
Yeah.
lizard, doesn't count,
Okay. You
Bunny.
don't have to register fish and birds and that kind of stuff.
4-H person, chicken.
Chickens are a separate topic.
Yeah, but we're just focusing on the cats and dogs
I
basis.
think,
Yeah.
especially for
So with the second part of this, I have section J, which we may have to take out if Kyle agrees with me. I put it in as just a start point because if you look at H, it talks about the fees will be set by the governing body on a yearly basis through resolution during the month of January of each year. Under J, I have set like a start point of fees, just so we had a discussion about it. If I'm correct, so we have to take J out if it's by resolution, and J still stay in.
You keep J in and just say that that's the fee for 2021, and then do it by resolution thereafter.
Okay.
Then you don't have to take that out to put it in a separate resolution. That would be my suggestion.
So in the other parts of J, I wanted to clarify is as we move forward, I built in a 1-year, 5-year, and a lifetime. Do you guys want to stay with a 3-tiered thing or just do like a 1-year lifetime when it comes to registrations? This is, I looked at a whole lot of different communities and what they were doing. Some of them were 1-year, 3-year lifetime, and I said 3 years seems kind of a weird thing, so I was like 5 years, because you take the lifespan of I would say the average dog is somewhere 8-10 years, and then you have some that go longer than that. So when I put these proposed fees for registration in there, taking in consideration of anything we do may catch has to go to the mills, to the facilities, we have travel time back and forth. So I started at $20 for 1 year for intact animals. For spayed and neutered animals, 30 for intact, which means they haven't been fixed. And then on 5 years, I did some sort of a discount to 5-year and lifetime as an incentive so that they can keep animals registered in a sense without being too spendy. So 75 for 5-year spayed neuter and 125 for intact. And And if you do a lifetime, it's 130 for spayed, neutered, and or 140 for intact animals. And then microchip and transfer fees are also here at 25 for the microchip, and then $10 for the transfer, and or replacement of tags, so like the metal tags. And the reason I asked about the 1 year, 5 year lifetime is I've been looking at what metal tags we want to issue. I was going to try to stay with one type of tag with 3 different colors, one for each one, or unless you guys want to only do 2 types, then we would only use 2 colors. So, so other the discussion about fees, whether you want to do 1, 5, and lifetime.
I don't know, it just seems like simpler is better.
One of the concerns I had was the drastic increase from where the citizens are today. Because today you're at $15 lifetime for a fixed animal, $25 lifetime for a spayed animal. So this would be a hefty increase over where the citizens are today.
I agree. I don't necessarily see a reason to increase it that dramatically.
I just followed what kind of what Mills was doing, so just baseline in the community. But again, that's why it's a discussion. So
I don't know, is there a reason that we need to, I understand what you're doing, but is there a reason that we need to raise the price if we're controlling animals ourselves?
no, I just use it as a model from what Mills was doing with their stuff, and then I took in the fact that anything we deal with the back and forth of to the facility, you know, it's going to be an increase in gas cost to us. So I was trying to equate for that. I didn't look at the current registration stuff. I was just using that model.
My concern with the current registration stuff is you say it is a lifetime. And what I've heard a lot of is some of these dog guys are not calling Metro or the town or wherever and saying, oh, hey, I don't have this animal anymore. So the data is really just not there. So I'm okay with like a lower fee, but I'd like it to be not really a lifetime option, that you need to come in and register your animals, and so we know whose is whose, because half the time you get dogs running around and nobody knows, and you look at the registration and it's like from 3 owners ago, if it's a dog that's been handed around, because you're responsible pet owners and irresponsible pet owners. So the registration is kind of a way for us to track, you know, also track everything. So, I mean,
Well, I think the registration's fine, but if it changes owners, then you have to register it again.
if it changes.
So, I mean,
Yeah,
Like a car, you know,
yeah,
buy a car, so I've already.
I'm not opposed to more frequent registration. I was just the massive increase all at once to citizens is where I was looking at. It's, you know, not even opposed to 1, 3, 1, 5 in lifetime. Just I think we need to readjust those fees.
I don't mind them being a little higher because, you know, like you said, if you don't have your pet spayed or neutered and somebody, or, you know, gets pregnant, you have a litter of animals again, it's a lot of animals to register, which might encourage people to spay and neuter.
And the plus that we have in here in I is that anybody now has a free registration to do it before January 1st. So anybody that's here, so we're basically setting this for new animals going forward. So I think an increase is absolutely fine. I just somewhat more modest.
Is that a free 1 year registration or is it a free?
6 months, they have 6 months from July 1 when we take over to January 1.
Yeah,
This
when they
suggests-
register though, are they considered registered for 1 year for that free service?
Well, and they can pick. So maybe it would be simpler if we split the fee amounts separate from the 1 year, 5 year lifetime. Decide if you want a 3-tier or 2-tier, and then once you guys decide on that, work on fees. That's simple.
I like the idea of a 3 year
Yeah.
in the bottom barrel because I don't want to have to come and re-register every year. But I've got an old dog that might die, which might not die. So if I'm looking at trying to save some money, I'm gonna probably come and do once a year. But what if she lives for another 7 years and she's awesome or something? Then I'm coming every year.
It's like a 1 year, 3 year lifetime.
Are you thinking like a 3-year?
I'm thinking like
3-year
3-year lifetime.
I'm okay with that. As people have a lot going on coming in every year to register your animal. It's a little bit of a hassle. Not a big hassle.
I'd be okay with it. What would be top fee wise?
I don't know.
My only concern about 3 year lifetime is those transient type residents, you may miss out on those, having those animals registered for a year or two.
What about a 2 year?
Um,
Just doing it every other year, you have to register your animals instead of once a year.
That's fine.
2-year lifetime.
So you're saying, how, I guess I don't see how changing the years would really encourage those transient folks to come in and register.
well,
I mean,
You're gonna do
do you
it.
just assume a level of non-compliance and just think about
Yeah,
writing it in a way that is gonna get the most compliance you can get from folks that would want to?
no, I think that's a good point. I mean, I'm fine with the 3 years. 2 years is fine too. See much.
What are rabies? Is rabies every 2 years? Okay, so if you do rabies every 2 years,
I was just kind of looking at it, it gives people the option, they could pick if they want to do it year to year or every 5 years or lifetime. I was looking at giving them options, it was kind of the model I was looking at, but
what if you put what if you put the registration with the rabies? So when they get their rabies up to speed, they bring the rabies in, you do the registration with the rabies. So if they have to get rabies every 2 years, that's when it's time to re-register your animal.
I like
makes
that,
perfect
just keep it
sense.
simple, at that 2 years, no lifetime, just that every 2 years.
If we're going off what's in here, I don't know if you looked up, talked to the local places, it looks like 1 in 3. It says here, provide most recent vaccination certification indicating a 3-year vaccination. So I'm guessing 1.
Do they offer 3-year rabies?
yeah, it seems like I put that in here when I was researching this.
That's why I wasn't sure if you had contacted local places in that wording or not.
If that's the case, I think 2 years is the way to go.
2 years?
Yeah.
So 2 years and or any others, just leave it at 2 years?
I like the lifetime.
I like-
myself.
Except that if we're worried about rabies, then that we can't ensure that people are keeping
And
up
that
with the
would
rabies.
shorten the, I guess, your workload and data tracking, who's got rabies, who's registered and so on. So if you do it every 2 years, they have to be in rabies. Even if you did a 2-year, 3-year, you do the registration based on what rabies they're doing. So if they do a 3-year, it's a 3-year registration. If they do a 2-year, it's a 2-year registration. And we just set flat registration fee.
I'm okay.
Okay.
Just corresponding to the
Because then they
rabies
can do
shot.
whatever they want. They can do a 2-year or 3-year.
Well,
rabies,
that way
but-
we're guaranteeing that all the animals have their rabies shot.
Yeah.
Bring in proof of rabies, you get your registration. If your animal becomes a nuisance or a problem, rabies, you're not registered, kind of goes hand in hand.
So the language for J, I understand that's right, we want it to be something to coincide with rabies vaccinations under 521. And then no lifetime or anything else. Okay, so we're gonna scratch.
Well, if we're gonna require a fee, I would keep it at like $20, $10 a year. $20 for 2 years, $30 for 3 years. It's $10 a year.
We want to differentiate between intact and not intact animals.
I think we should.
Yes.
So if they're not tagged, do the 20 or 30, $10 a year, and what's running right now, 15? Is there, what is it if they're
So right now it's,
like
current is
current, like county?
lifetime 25 for intact, 15 for.
For lifetime. So we're dramatically raising the rates.
Should we
Which
do,
again, I don't know if we're starting something new. I don't know
Yeah.
necessarily.
which they can be amended by resolution, correct?
Yeah, we got to set it
Language
every
in there?
Yeah, you have to reset it every year. So you guys can take it down next year if you want, the way this is written.
So,
So animals spayed, what would you want it to be?
they're fixed, $10 a year, so it'd be $20 for a 2-year and $30 for a 3-year.
And then like a $5 addition.
And then you do 15 a year. 15.
Yeah,
15 or
so it's
20.
30 for 2 years.
And intact is
50% more.
50%, 20. So registration fees for animals spayed or neutered, $10 for 2 years, $20 for 3 years. For the intact animals, $20. And then
$10 a year, chief.
Yeah, 10, 20, 30.
$10 a year
20 and
for
30.
fixed
10,
and
20.
and
Gotcha.
$20
Okay.
a year for unfixed.
Okay, got it. And then, so we need some sort of language that would say to be yeah, the language here, Kyle, to
Coincide.
coincide with chapter 521.
These are restrictions. Temporary.
Got it. The last little part to that, fees for microchips, microchip transfer, and fees for replacement tags. Those are exact matches to Mills. I was pricing out some microchip kits today. The really cheap ones are between $7 and $10 a set versus the little higher end ones. And that's up to you guys.
What's the benefit or drawback?
I think the hiring ones are the more reliable when it comes to scanning stuff from what I'm reading, but microchips are microchips, I think. Because they don't always read, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. We could maybe just put in we could change the language just to cover the cost of whatever ones we buy. That'd be simpler for those who want them. So if we're purchasing $10 a set, then that's the replacement cost. Is that
Just doing it at cost makes sense
okay?
for Burton to do it, so.
Chips.
Do we want to encourage people to do the microchips? I'm seeing a yes.
I think it would drastically help us, especially when we're in enforcement, picking them up, you know, not incurring handling fees and things like that. We can return the animal to the owner.
Would we like to do like an incentive kind of, say if you want a microchip, you get 1 year of your
Take off,
registration
take
waived?
off your registration, because that'd be close to about your cost of microchips.
Put me to work.
Because it'd be nice for people to, because we're gonna require the registration. So to give some incentive for them, so they're not paying a microchip fee on top of a registration fee, we can waive a little bit of the registration fee for microchipping.
And also,
Well, you guys
Oh.
do get to reset these fees annually, so you can tinker with them over time without having to do a formal ordinance to just learn what's gonna work for folks too. So what you're really trying to do is put something together for this first one that you can then learn from and adjust those fees going forward, depending on what you wanna do or what you're seeing the responses from people.
So maybe off that, we should just charge for a microchip, and then
I like the discount thing as an encouragement to get them to get chipped this first go around. If we get a lot in there, get them chipped, I think it's gonna make our lives easier. And we're offsetting some of our increase in registration fees by this. So people are getting that right here. Let's encourage them to help us by getting their average.
And then if we need to readdress it in a year, we
You
can.
can, well, I think we have to, is it January 1st, we have to reset it? So it's only gonna be for 6 months.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm okay with
But no
that.
one's gonna pay registration fees for 6 months.
That's true.
Nobody's gonna get chipped.
Yeah.
They're wait till they gotta pay so they get
There's
the
no
money.
discount.
So let's just hold off then until January and figure it out.
Just leave the fees where they are in language for now.
Yeah, for now, and then in January, we can decide what we're
Good
gonna do
talk.
with them. Good talk.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Alright.
yeah, I would just strike it then.
Okay.
The actual fee amounts, just strike it.
Strike it.
Because you're just gonna do it by resolution later.
Okay. Do we want to motion each section, or do we want to just do the
I
whole?
think I can do it at the end, can't I? Just do a motion with the amendments?
Okay. All right, 512 penalties is the next one. So unless otherwise prescribed, the penalties of the section, or this town code, section 5, first offense, second offense, third offense, first offense, $50. Now mind you, first offense doesn't mean the first time we catch somebody's dog or issue. It generally means that's probably about the second or third time we, hey, come get your pet, or we take her home, here's a warning. So first offense, I started at 50, second offense 75, and third offense is the, hey, you need to keep it home at $200. Again, this is discussion, so I had to have a start point for you. When I talk about unless otherwise prescribed, because there's other portions of this that's a different prescribed penalty, and I'll explain why when we get to those sections.
I mean, I'm fine with those fees, but fines the way they are.
And these are just the fees related to non-registration.
Yeah, this would be like an animal at large, anything that's not otherwise prescribed in the registration. So it's kind of
It's like your catch-all.
catch-all. Under the next one, enforcement, I did notate we need to change the 5125 to 513. Somehow that didn't fix when I was going through here. Flipping over, so under 513, as it should be labeled, under B, this is a penalty. This is an otherwise prescribed penalty. Portion of why this is, so when you look at provisions of this chapter shall be enforced by sworn officers of the police department and the animal control officers, unlawful and violation of this chapter to interfere with an animal control officer or police officer in performance of his duties or fail to obey lawful order of an animal control officer. So the penalties section gives, because we don't, animal control needs some teeth as they're enforcing things. We can't have people walking over them as they're doing their jobs. So in the penalties section of it, any person who's found guilty for interfering with an animal control officer shall be punished with a fine not less than $450, not more than $750, or imprisoned up to 6 months. The imprisonment portion, because the courts cannot do probation unless there's jail time attached to it. So it doesn't mean people are going to jail for this. It just simply, that gives the court leeway to say, this is the second time or the first time, we're going to do a month or 2 months if the prosecutor recommends, or in probation as needed. Again, the 450, 750 is a start, but this is one of those penalties. I think if we want to, we'll stiffer fine to people who are dealing with animal control officers.
The animal control officers aren't gonna be sworn police officers?
No.
Okay.
With that topic, depending on the candidate and how things go for the first, say, year and a half, 2 years, I think we could move to this, because there are some communities where they are. And then in a sense, it gives us, they can fill in, so police officers out on medical or sick or vacation, they could potentially fill in that spot in the future, but it's not in the plan right now.
Well, I was just thinking you just match up the interference with animal control penalties with interference with a peace officer penalty, because you've already got that by state statute. And then there's actually case law interpreting what that means.
Okay.
So then you get the benefit of that for your animal control ordinance. Because the question is, what is it? I've actually tried these interference with peace
Right.
officer cases, so I've written jury instructions for it. So the first question anyone's going to have is, well, what does it really mean to interfere with the animal control officer? So my thought would be we craft this to match up with the interference with the peace officer statute so that we can crib that case law for our court here in interpreting what it means.
Okay. So the language we would need to change shall be persons found guilty for interfering with animal control officer. And probably want all just reference.
Will be found in violation of whatever state statute, blah, 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 interference with police officer.
Yeah,
Whatever number that
She
is.
said, okay.
I can.
Blah, blah, blah.
I can help you with that.
I'm just
plug it right in and I'll put a little.
I'm just gonna make a note for the interference and then we'll get it figured out. Okay. Makes sense, okay. Moving on. 521, rabies and distemper. I kind of kept it just to those two. Obviously, we don't want rabies and distemper rampant through the community. There are other communities, they went like way above and beyond, had many pages of all the different diseases and things and sicknesses out there. And I said for a start point, let's start with the simplest of those, and if it becomes there's another issue, we can obviously amend that. Pretty basic language, talks about registering them, when they should register them for getting vaccinated and stuff like that.
Not to interrupt, but registration, aren't we gonna just mirror with the pet registration? So A would kind of be a, if we dig into it too much, I mean, you talk about boosters in 1 and 3, or minimum of 1 and 3, so we need to change that to match whatever we're gonna do for registration. So they don't conflict. I mean, I think rabies and distemper is completely, but do we need to separate rabies and distemper, and rabies just needs to match registration? Because looking at the registration here, like what your rabies requirements are, kind of clash with what we want to do for registration options.
Well, all you guys want is to have your registration match up with the rabies and the vaccinations. So whatever the amendment would need to be here in this section would be that to the extent the rabies are done on a, because there's some understanding from what I'm hearing that rabies is every 2 years, but then we've got 3-year in here. And so that's what they're saying is we want to have them be the same, whatever that number is, if it's 2 or 3.
The rabies stuff I mirrored, like Cheyenne and stuff, Mills and those, it's pretty consistent with everybody is 1 and 3. Right? So
Rabies, is it rabies 2 and then they offer a 3-year rabies, but I'm pretty sure rabies is every 2. I guess if we're gonna require, my thing is if we're gonna require the rabies vaccination needs to match with the registration.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Whatever it is, if it's 2 years
and
and 3, 1 and 3, call the local vets and see what they all recommend, and then,
Call that.
yep, call the vet and go off of that. Try to keep that as simple as possible, and I mean, you can put the distemper in there with it, I don't know.
Thanks to Google, it says all dogs should be vaccinated by 14 weeks of age, and then again at 1 year of age, and then revaccinated every 1 to 3 years.
Well, that's why it says
See?
So I'm wondering if it depends on how many vaccines the dog has had in their life, if you can extend that up a little bit again.
So they want it to run with the registration.
More expensive shot, that's usually.
But that's why registration fees are set yearly, so if they want to vaccinate their dog every year, rabies, then they can pay the registration every year. If they want to vaccinate them every 3 years, then they can pay for the registration every 3 years.
I had it in.
That's what I thought to me anyway.
The circle came around, so there you go.
All right.
Okay. So we'll just
I'll
make,
confirm with the vet though.
there you
All right, let's see, so under the same section 521, F is a prescribed penalty because obviously we don't want people running around with a bunch of rabbit and parvo temporary type pets. I felt that's probably a little more important. We can scratch F and leave it with the penalties as prescribed originally. We can leave it as prescribed in here. So the way I have it is any owner or any owner person in charge who refuses to comply with this section or who is ordered by the court to vaccinate any dog or cat shall be punished by a fine not less than $75 on first offense and not more than $250.
I like the idea of having that fine on top of, not registering your dog, because, I mean, rabies is pretty.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay.
vaccinate your animals.
Agree. Ron?
Before we go on, one of the things I marked down on section D,
D?
yes,
Okay.
it was newborn dogs and cats should be vaccinated by the veterinarian age 8 weeks or longer. I know a lot of people do self-vaccinations. So my concern was just the word veterinarian.
And I think there's a typo in there too. I think it's supposed to say, any newborn dog or cat shouldn't be vaccinated before 8 weeks of age or after 3 months of age. Is that what I'm understanding?
I'd say no longer than 3 months of age, so minimum of 8 weeks, but no longer than 3 months.
Just wanted to get that first vaccination, but
At a minimum of 8 weeks.
So you just want to take out by a veterinarian?
yeah, that was my thought. I know personally, I've done it, and we've had a lot of.
If you're okay, instead of doing the minimum of 8 weeks, why don't you just say no longer, all newborn dogs and cats shall be vaccinated by 3 months of age? And then that way, if they get vaccinated 8 weeks, or if they're 10 week, or if they're 16 week, or whatever, wherever they feel comfortable to hit that, as long as they're all vaccinated by 3 months of age,
Okay.
you're good to go.
So,
I like that.
on the part of the veterinarian, with people who self-vaccinate, if they show proof that they vaccinate? would that-
Absolutely.
Yep,
kind of-
you can get it.
Okay, so leaving that in, taking out,
Yeah, exactly.
So
That's what I
you
was
can
wondering.
bring the packaging
How to show proof.
from the material that you just bought.
So newborn dog or cat,
should be vaccinated by a veterinarian.
I would say
By
shall be vaccinated
shall,
by 3 months of age, and proof of vaccination is required. But would you register your animal at that point, or is this where we're talking about getting rid of
newborn
puppies?
dog or cat shall be vaccinated.
That's where I've always done it is puppies need to get vaccinated. You want to pay 8 times for a veterinary to give away puppies.
Yeah.
So
Of age and proof
Proof of vaccination shall be. Proof of vaccination is required, or whatever, however you want to put it.
is required. Either a copy from a vet or purchase of
vaccinated.
here. Okay. All right. D amended, F, you guys are good with that. Moving on, 531, talking about dogs and cats being large. Under section F, we need to amend 5128 to 5320. Other than that, I didn't have anything for discussion unless you guys had something as you were reviewing it. Moving on through this section to cruelty to animals, which is 532. I notated under H, we need to change on the bottom of H to 531, which is dealing with how we deal with abandoned animals. And under I, this is the penalty section. So cruelty animals tend to reside well with animal-loving people in the world, and they tend to obviously don't want animals being abused. So any person cited in this section shall appear in court. So it means it's a must appear, it means they're coming to court. Upon finding the guilt in the municipal court, the fine should be no less than $400 and not more than $750 with imprisonment up to 6 months. Again, that's the probationary area. So I don't know if you want to leave it at that, change it.
What do you say we have the fine amount be the same as like interfering with officer as well? So instead of 400, 450?
Okay.
Is that pretty consistent with other municipalities?
Some yes, some no. Some are like,
I don't mind being a little stricter.
yeah, some are kind of lax, some are a little more strict. It's kind of the temperature of the community. So I put this together as a start point. The last community I was at, they were pretty staunch in animal control and was used in this, but we're not them. So you're the elected representative, so your temperature is how you feel the community would want this addressed.
Okay, we're 450.
450. Yeah, there's
You hit the point of animal cruelty, here's your fine, and
Well,
leave it to the
there's
judge.
a cap as to what you can really do.
We just have a minimum and a maximum, and I think under misdemeanor 750 is the maximum, so we're saying no less than 450, and then the judge can pick your 750 right off the bat because circumstances surrounding it.
It's not bad enough to be a felony, but it's bad enough. And then if it's
Which-
felony animal cruelty, then that's another.
I mean,
that's
what
another-
I'll tell you guys from my experience in doing criminal defense work over the years is that generally the folks that you're gonna be dealing with that are gonna be getting fined like this aren't in a position where you're gonna realistically collect it anyway.
I was worried about
You know.
jail time. but-
Right,
Yeah.
so I mean, the fines, I would just try to make them consistent, but I think the amounts, for all practical purposes, of the folks that find themselves in a position where they're really gonna get fined the max, and you're probably never gonna collect that fine from them anyway.
Right.
So it has T, and again, this has the jail portion into it, so depending on those circumstances, there could be jail time affixed to a $450 fine first offense. The second offense could be $750 and maybe more jail time or whatever the prosecutor and the courts work out. All right, animal waste 533, section D, I highlighted as a discussion I was having. There are some communities that have this particular clause that says the section does not apply to a person utilizing a seeing eye dog or to persons physically handicapped to such a degree that they are incapable of compliance. In that discussion, I'm split down the middle. One person I talked with kind of said, no, I don't want that in there, but again, bringing it to you guys, the governing body.
I don't know how I feel about that.
I think it should be split. I think if we're looking at like a seeing eye dog or a service animal, those are some different circumstances, but I feel like if you're, I don't know what such a subject could be physically handicapped. I mean, you still gotta, it's not fair to the dog, even if you can't keep, or your neighbor, if you can't keep your yard clean. And I understand, having a companion, I get that, but I feel like that they should still have some.
So is this more
This only applies
about
not in your yard.
Yeah, like you were walking the dog. But. See anything
This is
else?
public places
This is
or
public.
private residences that are not your
Okay,
own.
so, but, okay, private property not owned, or like, okay, I missed that part, excuse me.
Let them in there and walk.
Still,
Right.
I
did
mean,
you have a plan for? I mean,
but, are you?
touchy subject.
Mhm.
Is why I brought it up.
But if you're out, I mean, but if you're out in public walking your dog and you're taking your dog out in public with you, I feel like that you were not handicapped to the point where you can't use a pooper scooper to pick up your dog's poop. I don't know,
I don't know.
I don't
That
know.
would be like when your dog poop right in the middle of, Walmart. What are you gonna do?
Well-
Pick it up. I would think the same thing here. The dog's gonna poop there, pick it up.
Can I say something?
Yeah, okay.
There's enough normal people in this town that don't do it. So, I mean, go to the parks. I mean, kids are playing and stuff. So I mean, I'm with you. I feel everybody should clean up after their own dog. But, I mean, how can you get after a blind person or a handicapped person if half this town's just letting their dog do what they want anyway? Go to the parks. That park over there on Pony Express. I mean, that's a disaster. I mean, you can't even walk around there. So,
We do have some language in here to.
okay, you have that as
So, you
a,
know,
I was gonna say.
'Cause I've tried.
Service dog.
I feel like that maybe we should just leave that to like an officer's discretion type thing and take it out.
I think we should take it out, and we can
Yep.
always put it back in later if we need, if we need to.
I think that if, you get a dog that poops on the sidewalk and it's a seeing eye person and he doesn't realize it, an officer sees him, I don't feel like our officers would be.
So why not leave it there?
Just take it out and leave it to officer discretion, I mean.
Why not just leave it there?
I think it invites litigation.
Does it?
Well, the
Okay,
way,
that's
the
fine.
physically handicapped to a degree incapable of compliance is vague enough that you would have, everybody would try to argue that, right?
There.
My back's blown out.
Sure.
You get the opportunists out there too, so I think
Got a bad hamster.
at the end of the day, I mean, this is guidance, it's not.
Sure.
And I put it in as discussion, as I was looking through different communities, some are more progressive than where we're at, some are more conservative. I was trying to gauge somewhere in the middle, what would work for us. So discussion, so take it out, leave it in, it's up to you guys.
I
So I
say take it
agree
out.
with you.
I say take it out.
I want to water on that. 'Cause personally, there is more yucky stuff in dog poop, and especially walking down in our thing, it goes right into our water system. And I do have a problem with that. We drink out of this water.
So you're leaning more to take it out.
You want to take it out?
Yeah.
Because this makes it so it doesn't apply, so we want to take it out.
Councilwoman Newsom.
I'm voting take it out just because of the looseness of the ability to manipulate it.
Doesn't matter. What I have to say.
All right.
It matters.
Well, I would say leave in the exemption for the blind people, the visually impaired.
I would hope that if any of our officers or patrol officers are gonna give somebody a ticket for.
I would hope to, I would hope so too.
Right,
Would be my,
Kind of indifferent.
that's kind of where I'm at with it. I mean,
if not, call me, I'll come.
You have multiple
Yeah, me
levels.
too.
You have officer discretion, then you've got prosecutorial discretion, and then you've still got your municipal court judge.
Right.
If it's bad enough that it gets through those three levels, like, and it decides not, everybody in that layer decides not to can that case, that something awful happened.
I mean, I got a guy at the shop every day at noontime. I sit with these guys at lunch, facing out the window to the new grass and stuff we got out front. Every day for the last, 2 years?
Since we put it in.
Walks his dog over there, lets him do his thing, and walks home. Every day. Not once has he ever picked it up, ever. You know, it's, you know, but, you know, I don't yell at the guy because I don't want to cause trouble. But I sit there every day and watch him do it. It's like someday I'm just waiting for him to bend over and clean it
Well, now
up.
you can copy
Bring his sheets
this
of red.
ordinance, you can just.
I'll hand it to him, yeah,
Go a little, leave a little roll of dog on bags over
Doggy
there.
bag.
every day.
When we're done with this, we'll probably need to get some signs anyways, put them up. Just, you know,
I mean, we got dog bag stations everywhere, so clean up after yourself. You know, I mean, I don't know what else more you want. But
Vicious, dangerous animals, 534. It's always a hot topic because everybody lives in town, they don't want people's dogs and cats biting them and chasing them and clawing them and all that other stuff. If you've had a chance to review A, B, C, D, E, I will not go through those. I did highlight under EI, which is the prescribed penalties to this because obviously we want to make sure we protect our public. Any person convicted under this section shall be fined not less than $300 for first offense and imprisonment up to 6 months, $750. So essentially a second offense, it's a minimum of $750 for a second offense and ordered by the court to remove from the town limits or destroy said animal. And this is to help keep the bites under control. You know, as a responsible pet owner, they should be making sure their pets aren't out doing that stuff. Only portion of this, unless you guys have other comments and discussion.
I think the only thing I really like about this, when you talk about like deeming vicious, is there is in here where it talks about, you know, it's unprovoked, you know, where, so if someone gets in your yard and your dog bites them, that tough, like you shouldn't have been in their yard. You know, it goes all the way to startling your dogs and stuff like that. Like I think it really defines a dog going out and chasing and biting or causing a problem. Because they're still animals, even when they're in their families. So I think, I like how it's written, that it gives a little more protection there, because I know there was a lot of concern with that, you know, your dog can bite your kid and someone could deem it vicious, you know, and it's like, well, no, well, my kid was pulling on its ears and, you know, poking its eye and you're gonna get bit, like that's part of it. So I like how that's written in here.
Some communities, if dog bites, they don't care. I'm like, no, let's make sure we protect our citizens there.
I think I just have a question, but the way we've got it set up with the contract with Mills is there's gonna be it's a $10 a day, you know, rent fee basically that we can then assess to somebody. And so when you have a vicious animal case, those could potentially go on for a couple of months. And so you could be looking at a relatively significant fine just from the cost of housing the animal during the pendency of the litigation. And the maximum fine we can assess is $750, but I want to make sure that this contemplates that schedule. And then I guess maybe I could just talk with Chief about this a little bit too, but this is a hypothetical that I'm thinking about. What happens if the person ends up not being convicted? Do they then still have to pay the fee for the animal being housed during that whole time period?
We got a maximum with the Mills agreement
Not if it's pending court litigation.
Right,
outside of the.
Yeah.
because it's evidence
Right.
and potentially the court could order something be done with the animal one way or the other. So, you know, I guess that's something we might want to contemplate.
I mean, how does it work how does it work now? Like if your dog confiscates your dog and you go to court and you're found not guilty, do you have to pay to get your dog back out?
I haven't had one where they haven't been found guilty yet, so I don't know.
I mean, I guess that's kind of where, you know, like you said with.
I think it's
the feces
regardless
thing.
the animal. I don't know.
You still
Worth
pay-
asking them how to handle
Well, yeah, because if they're not found not guilty, then we're gonna tell them you're gonna pay $200 to get your dog out. I can see them coming back at us for that.
ever in my career. I mean, by the time you move the steps forward.
It's like the
where-
dog food thing. If we make it all the way to the point where we're sitting in front
Yeah,
of a
it's
judge
just
over a
a
vicious
dangerous animal,
issue.
that's usually a pretty good
Right.
case.
I'm not too worried about that.
If they get found not guilty, pay their verdict.
Well, what is
If it's
interesting,
not gonna happen, then what does it matter?
what is interesting though is what you said about if the case goes on for, I mean, what was that, hoarding, incident a while back where it was a long time?
But isn't this written where we can assess? So this isn't the fine. Is it, when we ask for the boarding fees, is it in a form of a fine, or are we saying,
I think it's an assessment for them to obtain the animal.
okay, so if they keep it for 90 days, that's, $900, and this is your assessment for it's not the fine, the fine's completely different, but the assessment, this is how much it costs to house your animal.
But if they don't come get the animal, then we eat it. Because we're gonna end up adopting it out at some point.
It doesn't take us 3 months to record docket.
Could be one of those ones that we need to readdress down the road.
See what happens if we get back.
Just doing it.
I have a question about people going in the yards getting bit. What about like us? We gotta go in, turn people's water on, off. How are we gonna deal with that if we don't see a dog and all of a sudden he's in the gate and a dog comes out of nowhere and gets bit? What do you do then? I mean, do we not go into people's yards and start making appointments, or?
Are they covered under you guys?
Because we're in people's yards all the time.
So how do you handle it now?
Huh?
How do you handle it now?
I beat him off with a curb stop tool. I don't care. I mean, I was on Fifth Street one day and I come around a truck and dog was coming after me. You ready? But then this nice
Like,
lady
were you
came out and
accessing
called.
like meter pits?
Huh?
Are meter pits fenced in?
Some of them are, yes.
A lot of our curb stops and meter pits are in people's yards. You know?
But I think once we get animal control, do we get to the point where if you have to go in somebody's yard, the animal control goes with you to the call, and that we give animal control the ability to restrain said animal, catch a
Okay.
bull?
Yeah, that's fine. That's,
That-
you know,
Do we have some language like that where if a public works or town employee has to enter property to perform their official duties, that they are accompanied by animal control, and animal control has the right to restrain the animal for the safety of the town?
Well, if you have to go into people's yards, don't you get the owner notice first?
It depends on what it is that we're doing.
yeah,
For certain activities that we do, no, we do not give the owners notice at all. We enter the property, do our thing, and then leave.
You can't interfere with the public utility.
like a water shut off, for non-payment or whatever. We're not gonna tell them we're coming, we're just gonna show up and turn your water off, I mean.
Please put your
So
dog
I
on
would
the
put
circuit.
something about restraining. I mean, given that for the safety of the town employees, like if someone's got a dog in their yard and they have to get in and shut the water
So
off,
if
then
we,
animal control officer can,
I think that's more a policy thing for you guys in terms of how you want to handle it. I mean, if the animal attacks you, it's statutes, your ordinances govern. all
yeah,
of
I mean,
that.
if these guys see a dog, they're not gonna go into the yard.
Right,
But you do have some that live underneath trailers, and it's nice and quiet, okay, I don't see a dog, they walk in, all of a sudden they,
right.
bolt out or whatever, so.
Or they just so happen to open the door right as you latch the gate behind you.
So far, nobody's been bit, but I'm just saying, it's gonna happen someday, but.
I think with policy, since we're getting an animal control officer, if you have to go, we can do that. If you guys gotta go in the yard, have animal control there with you.
Because if the animal attacks you, you've got the ordinances that would cover you for a litany of things, from not having it restrained or whatever it may be.
If he attacks me, I'm
Secure the
gonna,
yard.
trust me.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know that there's, short of giving the owner notice before.
Now, like I said, some stuff we don't, if he's gotta change a meter over or something like that, we
Right.
make an appointment, but water shut-offs or turn-ons or whatever, we just show up and do it, we can't set an appointment for everything.
Having our control officer here within minutes
Yeah.
of any call, I think, or just
So
help
you're
give you guys that protection.
It's fine with me, I was just wondering.
well, so moving in, since you bring it up, because 535 is owning or keeping a fighting animal prohibited. Without going through the ordinance, I would say it's probably gonna be a case-by-case thing with discretion, looking at the other ones. I think we'll be all right. Just simply, A says, any person who owns, possesses, keeps, or exercises control over any animal shall prevent the animal from biting or causing any bodily injury to any person or domestic animal, except that this section shall not apply to bites inflicted by police dogs. Obviously, they have to be exempt. On duty, nor to owners bitten by their own dog, nor to bites inflicted on trespassers, or nor to bites inflicted as a result of accidental provocation. So essentially, if somebody's trespassing, that's different. Police dogs and stuff. So we can add a section that deals with that. I mean, since we already have the one about interference with town employees, other amendments, we'll add a section here. Do some research on just the next topic. But on the back side of that, E is the penalty. Any person who violates this section shall be issued a must-appear citation to municipal court, and upon conviction shall be punished by a fine not less than $250 or more than $750 with the imprisonment. So biting dogs obviously is an issue. We don't want to have that in our community. So unless you want to change those penalties to that, we can move on.
I would like to see both of those sections have the same penalties, just to kind of keep that uniformity.
For 450.
Yeah,
The vicious, are you talking vicious? Vicious
I'm
and
talking-
biting?
yeah, vicious and biting.
So 300 and 750.
300.
Yeah.
Yeas,
Vicious.
nays?
Then taking what Kyle said into consideration about the longevity of how long
Okay.
an animal might be.
300. Okay. So moved. Capture cats and dogs. I didn't have anything marked for discussion unless you guys have something. 536. 537, habitually destructive dogs or cats be euthanized or relocated. Leash laws, next one that I have, 538. I did add a section I under B, under exceptions. Some of this came from some conversation I had with you guys. The animal, so an exception to the leash law. The animal is on private property belonging to its owner, person in charge of its care, or has permission to be on, to be on property. It's water. Permission to be on the property by the property owner or responsible party, whereas the dog is either fenced or under voice command to stay within the property boundaries and not be running large. That way, if it's on council member's property, it's under his voice command or fenced and doesn't need a leash. Outside of that, is when you look at under A, anywhere else within the town, whether it's at the parks, the streets, the walkways, they need to be on a leash. There was some discussion about, well, what if it's just voice command? I put some thought into that. I did have a lady call and complain about 3 weeks ago down in Reshaw Park because she had a little dog and somebody else had a big dog, and the big dog wasn't listening to them in their voice commands. And I said, in these public places, they probably should just be leashed so they're not running loose, because some people's dogs just don't.
So all parks are gonna be leash parks now.
With the exception, I did build in here for an animal park that's fenced, so if they're within that.
Yeah, but right now, I mean, it's been a while now, but we've allowed Reshaw not to have leashes. So I'm fine with the leash thing, don't get me wrong. As long as that's the way it's gonna be, then, we'll have to take the sign.
If you say leash, then
Yeah. We're getting
Use
big enough,
discretion.
there's enough people going down there. I mean, living with the walking path right behind my house, it's crazy how many people are bringing their dogs down
What
there.
about the people that take their dogs down to the river to swim?
that's where I think if you say leashed, you can maybe have the officers use their discretion. If That's all the animals.
Because they'll drown if they have a leash on the river.
Would that be under command?
But this isn't a park, so they have to be on a leash.
So.
And we have a lot of people that take their dogs down there.
Public places, streets, or parks. Private property of somebody other than the property owners, where it talks about a leash.
My biggest thing with leash on is people, I don't mind not being on a leash, you know, when they're walking and stuff, but it's the people that come down in their cars. Here, doggy, get out of the car, you know,
And drive with the
let them
dog
drive down the road,
road.
you know, beside the car. You know, it's, you know, that drives me nuts. I mean, it's a street. I mean, I've come around the corner before and, you know, just dogs everywhere running down the street because people won't get out of the car, you know, they're just, let's go 20 miles an hour down the road and let the dog chase me, you know. But I mean, I got no problem with having a leash all the time either, but, you know, it's these people with the cars that really bother me. Just let them
Well,
out.
then, if we have a leash law, they can't
They
do that.
wouldn't be able to do that.
I understand that, but they're still gonna do it. And, you know, without, I know you guys can't be everywhere, but it's gonna happen.
Can we put some kind of language in that if they're swimming, that they, yeah, as soon as they're on land, if they're on land, they have to be on the leash?
So,
It's up to you guys.
sure, I think I'm fine. I mean, it, you know, so it talks about, you know, exceptions, you know, it is not a violation of the section to have a dog off leash in an established animal agility park or any other designated, other areas designated by the chief of police service animals are exempt. So in that section B, we could put,
Chief, designate the river.
right.
The river, yeah, the.
Yeah, I
rivers,
mean,
okay.
so I can add language into that as a river.
So we don't need people, because what then, what, yeah.
But you don't even need to. You can designate it as the chief by that language, and then if there's a problem, you can take it away.
Because I can put it in policy
Right. So,
with the animal
With the
control
and I
officer.
don't think we
So-
need to
Okay.
intentionally.
So other than that, you're okay with section I?
What about, cats? If they're, how's that work?
So this
What?
Are
is,
they just automatically considered at large if there's cats out?
We'll get into that.
we have a whole cattery.
Cattery community.
Cattery?
Yeah,
Goody
we have a
stuff.
section to deal
We'll
with.
get there.
I'm not gonna give any comments yet.
So other than that, you guys are good with adding I, so that people with their own property are, okay. All right, moving on, 5310, performing animal exhibitions. So I marked on here, does the governing body want to add a permit requirement for the, say, circuses, petting zoos that may show up, like Murdoch's has a traveling circus and they set up in the parking lots, or
Pet the goats.
if Outback wants to have a petting zoo while they're feeding everybody, I don't know. But I tried to put things in there so that as we get in the future, we didn't have to, oh, we should address this now when the problem shows up.
I say yes, we should have a permit for a petting
Yes.
zoo or circus.
Agree.
Okay,
It should be a permit.
Cheap, but we should have permits and we have.
So,
So then we
yeah,
know.
okay.
so we know,
Yeah, so we can check.
so somebody doesn't, yeah, make sure they have insurance,
I wouldn't
so
want to make it large cost to dissuade.
what's our catering permit?
The Tiger King to open up.
That's why we
The
have permit.
alcohol is $25, or I'm sorry, $100.
But what if they don't do
It's $100.
50, half? $50 for a permit for circus or petting zoo, make sure they have insurance and
Okay.
How much of that building permit is usually?
we do zoning certificates, and building permits.
Insurance.
Building permit.
Building permits are
How
going
does
to the county.
basis on the cost?
Yeah. They're not just-
They're all,
Percentage of the
they're all through the
value.
county, but the zoning certificates, we charge $10 on. If it requires a building permit, we charge a zoning certificate fee.
I like the idea of 50, maybe. Just half of the catering permit fee. It's not outrageous, but it's enough that, like I said, we can require insurance and
Vaccination records.
vaccination records,
Well,
the good stuff.
how deep does that go? Does that cover like 4-H kids are doing something somewhere?
I don't think we need like a petty team, then 4-H is covered underneath the organization, aren't they? If 4-H does something, I'm pretty sure that maybe, that's something that we could address with that.
Does that generally occur in?
It's usually held at the industrial building in the fairgrounds.
Well, they're not
Yes.
performing.
For dogs.
No,
No, it's like a 4-H kids have their animals and go through them. I'm sure we would go ahead.
They can
I was just
come see
looking
us
at,
for an exemption.
yeah, exactly, so.
Yeah.
Permits.
50, no, we're okay, 50.
Okay, we'll, address that under section C.
I'm making all sorts of noises here, sorry.
Any other discussion on the farming animals? Alright, 5311, rabbits. I've notated here, does the governing body want to dictate living condition standards for rabbits and or having permits for having rabbits? So currently it says no person or persons shall harbor, own, possess, or have control of more than 3 rabbits within the town of Evansville on that person's or person's property. So you can change the number and or discussion on the other part.
I'll tell you what, if you breed them, and they breed themselves,
Yeah.
you know, that 3 will be up to 15, 30 some days.
I think I kind of like rabbits to fall under, don't we have something about with chickens that they have to be inspected?
That's the next topic.
Okay, so rabbits kind of fall under the same thing. They can get dirty and it can get out of control. And so, well, so can dogs. That's why we got dogs and cats before. But in kennels, we get into kennels and we talk about inspecting the conditions. If you have a kenneling permit and you actually have a lot. So, I mean, I feel like we should have some kind of living condition standard for rabbits.
You have the cruelty to animals provision that would cover you.
Would cover the rabbits as far as like shelter
This is
and,
any animal.
okay.
Under the cruelty to animals section, you have, I think it's under section A.
So I just don't want someone taking a rabbit, throwing it in a makeshift cage, throwing it out the backyard for it to get big.
Right, no owner shall abandon or fail to provide an animal with sufficient good or wholesome food, water, proper shelter, protection from the weather, veterinary care to prevent suffering, humane care and treatment, like.
And I don't like the idea of somebody having to inspect my chicken coop every year.
Yeah.
That seems silly.
Okay, so then just 3 rabbits, because I can see that, because like you talk about 4-H kids.
Part of the reason I put the inspection in the chicken thing, which we'll discuss, is because like rabbits and chickens, it kind of helps keep that. Because if anything, the chicken seems to be a very controversial thing in the community. So it kind of gives us that control to make sure that they're not getting out of hand, if that makes sense, and we're not getting piles of chicken poop and others.
They did a thing to do about the chicken ordinance in Casper a few years ago.
So the prior community I was at, this was a huge topic, and we had some very anti-chicken people that, like, you were gonna get West Nile because they had chickens. It was crazy, some of the things they came up with. So one of the concessions that they made was that there would be an inspection with permit each year, and their permit was ridiculous, but that's what they chose to do. But at least that way, at least once a year, somebody's coming in and saying, that's not okay, or at least it's clean, if that makes sense.
I've got enough yards around me that are full of dog food. I just not gonna regulate the dogs in that manner.
Well, I think
It's
we
not
are,
good.
aren't we? There's
You don't have to have your yard inspected every year.
Not with dogs. There is a discussion about dogs.
Yeah,
We'll
no, I
get
saw
into
that,
this. But again, I just wanted to bring it up.
No, I'm kind of siding on if your chickens or your rabbits are gonna be a problem enough to like smell,
To get your neighbors'
neighbors
attention.
are probably gonna complain.
Is that animal cruelty then at that point?
Yeah, I think so.
Or does it fall under feces if they smell that bad? Is it feces control? Because I mean, rabbit poop, chicken poop, it's poop is poop.
I mean, there's enough stuff in this ordinance that you guys can find a couple of things to cite to get it under control.
Before we get to chickens, I think the rabbits, and I don't know if we need to change it to adult rabbits or something. Because if you do have baby rabbits, I don't want somebody going throwing away baby rabbits because they got more than 3 rabbits. So I think have a little bit of leeway there to get rid of the rabbits.
No, but 3 adult rabbits.
3 adults.
What's an adult rabbit?
Well, I don't know the rabbit, I don't know
I don't
what rabbit is. What
My
do they
thought was
consider?
just a little bit of leeway for some,
Could you
has to-
research when the
totally
rabbits,
agree, yeah.
I don't know
like
how we say it.
do you have to
but I think we
vaccine
need
them
to
and
have-
stuff, like, same thing like puppies, I don't, do you have to? You
Because
don't
a lot
have
of
to?
the 4-H.
I don't know, but I don't think so.
Well, you gotta call and ask the vet.
You can raise a rabbit.
I mean, you know, this is just my perspective on these things. Okay.
Right?
Just as sort of this philosophical concept of writing legislation. You can kind of go one or two ways with it. One is you can be super specific and try to deal with every circumstance you can possibly imagine. Or you can do things like just use the word reasonable or use the word negligent and then let the court deal with it on a case-by-case basis and develop a body of case law. That's essentially what common law is. It's unwritten law that's been developed through cases over time. And we have this hybrid where we use common law sometimes, we use statutes sometimes. And so I think for certain situations like with rabbits, you might be better off just saying something like, shall not negligently own a rabbit, or, you know,
Have a reasonable
use
number of
a
rabbits.
reasonableness standard of some kind, and then it just lets you sort of decide in the extreme case to cite somebody.
That somebody might.
Instead of, if for some of these, sort of use just sort of a vague catch-all standard, like a reasonableness standard, you know, a reasonable animal owner standard, just call it good. You know, then we can call someone at All Creatures as a vet to come down for the prosecution to say that this was unreasonable ownership of the animal, call it good. Instead of going through a lot of the specifics. I mean, that's my bias, is I like that better a lot of times because it gives you flexibility. And sometimes if you try to define too many things, you end up having exceptions that swallow the rule, and you guys can just see how, why we can't ever get anything done in Congress, because this is exactly what happens. Right? So that's just my suggestion.
I'm okay. Because what might be reasonable in one house, lot size, home, might be completely unreasonable.
And then realistically, the only things you're gonna cite are gonna be super egregious circumstances, you know?
Yeah, because when it becomes unreasonable, it becomes animal abuse.
Right.
So, person shall harbor, own, possess, control.
A reasonable amount of rabbits are allowed.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, I get,
You suggested it.
I know. Now I gotta write, I gotta write something.
I would say that would be the same for the chicken.
Yeah, I agree. Both of them are used for 4-H. Stuff like that, so.
Although I do like the cutoff of 6 on the chickens, just because if we didn't have the cutoff, my kids would have me get 12.
Is ours 6 chickens altogether, 5 hens and 1 rooster?
No roosters.
No roosters.
Roosters in town.
Why do I don't hear them anymore?
So the chickens,
God knows.
5, 3, 7,
We're up
5,
on
3,
roosters.
12.
Yes.
Hey, good catch. So, it should be, while he's writing out his suggestion, 5-1-12 for chickens.
5-3.
Or 5-3, sorry, 5-3.
And then you gotta change the next one.
Next one goes to 13.
You gotta
Yeah,
change
you
all the
got
rest
all
of
out
it
of whack.
Yeah, there's 5 through 12 in the next one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so we'll shift
Three
numbers.
all right. There's a lot of work went into this, just so you know.
So here's a, you could take this sentence and it could be applied to other animals to the extent you chose to do so. In order to own a rabbit, individuals shall act as a reasonable and responsible owner of the animal to ensure the animal is properly cared for and not a nuisance to the community.
Yes, I like it.
Thanks.
I mean, then you get like an alligator, right?
Just, that is the.
There's another section.
Talk about exotic animals.
Yes, I got one outside my front door, there's a little, power. They come by. What is that? Well,
Okay,
3-footer.
we're good with rabbits? Moving on to the next one.
Chickens.
Chickens. 5 through 12. Chickens and other fowl enclosures and or restrictions. We can either change that language, so I have it as a combination of not exceeding 6. You can obviously change that if you want, or we can adopt this other language. An attorney wrote this, Swain. Let's see, so because the chickens are the controversy, that's why I put this in here, and it's to discussion.
Maybe you just tack that on as additional subsections, is sort of your catch-all.
Good?
I mean, because I think this other stuff is good in terms of the specifics, and maybe you just tack that in as a catch-all to this section and some other ones, just so, you know, in case you're in a situation like what Ron's talking about, you could just say, it's the reasonable owner standard that you violated there, you know?
You talk about a permit shall be obtained yearly to Harper Fowl and a fee for said permit, so we're just gonna set that by resolution. Just like
Unless you
along.
decide you don't want to do a permit.
I don't like them.
Okay, no permit for chickens.
Okay, these are out.
And I think the reasonable wording would take over B
Yeah.
as well. Because I could see sometimes maybe you need to be clean more than every week.
Mhm.
Sometimes, you know, it's all that same reason.
And the 100 feet of any school, I mean, if they could have a pen with 2 chickens in it, because they're 4-H kids.
I put that in there because I found that from several other communities, and I think part of what they were looking at, because there are people that have allergies to fowl, and because kids is a communal area, is my understanding is why that's in there.
I was always under the assumption that there was like zoning guidelines about how many feet it had to be away from a residential structure or something like that. Just because.
Build.
Huh?
I think that depends on what you build. I mean, that's like saying you can't have a
Yeah.
doghouse 10 feet from your house. I mean, but just some chicken coops are the size of doghouses. You only have
Yeah.
2 chickens.
Sometimes people try to use heat lamps to keep it heated though, and it's like a fire issue.
Oh, yeah.
Every winter,
Um,
we go and burn down
We had
chicken
that,
coops
we had
every
that
winter.
discussion.
Which one of this chicken coop we burned down?
They don't want to do a permit.
I like the idea of leaving it
She's
available, like, we're
everywhere.
talking about distancing.
She first,
Heat lamps, I feel like
she
we're
first got
way
chickens.
too
like
far,
that.
So,
way too far into the
Just
month.
started off, she had a rooster.
what does everybody think
Son of
about
a
this?
bitch. Every morning, finally, they were like,
But
I
then
got nothing,
instead
everybody's
of
complaining about,
having
because
C
Casper, you're
where
not
it has
supposed to have
the
roosters
permit,
either.
just put the
So
reasonable
I think enough
standard
people
in
complained, she
it.
finally got rid of them.
I like it. Yep.
Fair enough.
And then, since you're not doing the permit, do you want to have chicken coops and stuff, yes or no?
No.
No, okay, so D is out. Okay, see, problem solved. All right. Okay, harboring a nuisance needs to be renumbered to 5313. Under B, habitual being defined. Mayor and I had this discussion last week as we were going through this prior to the council meeting. Any dog or cat or other animal which by frequent and habitual barking, howling, screeching, yelping, baying, or in any other way and disturbs the quiet of any reasonable person or the community, or which disturbs or endangers the comfort, repose, or health of a person, blah, blah, blah. So habitual was the question. What is habitual?
Because we talked about habitual homes. Your recurring offenders, these are, how do you define habitual? How do you define, this might be a legal thing. I mean, they could be barking in the middle of the day at 10 o'clock in the morning and your neighbor works nights, or they could be barking all night long. Do you have?
Are you a reasonable person in the community standard? That's how that works. It has to disturb a reasonable person in the community.
We have the same question about habitual was another word.
It was with the home, like what's a habitual offender?
Oh, yeah.
Is that what the
Home.
words?
Right.
For like, if the officers are having to
Right.
respond to a home,
Yeah.
when do you consider them?
Didn't we keep that word? Because you were comfortable with prosecuting it that way.
Scott.
Scott?
I'm sorry.
Sorry. You had that look. I don't know what you're talking about.
If Scott was comfortable with it, then I don't know. I mean, to me, I don't have a problem with the word habitual, because you still have the reasonable person in the community standard, which, you know, I mean, if it's 2 a.m., I think that's what everybody thinks. You know,
I think part of this came up with the question of, like, we have a dog across from the PD here, a hound dog that likes to howl for 4 hours straight. Is that
Yep.
habitual, is that not habitual? I think that was, I think that's where this topic came.
I just think there's not, I mean, if you take the word, I mean, I don't think having the word habitual makes a difference one way or the other in my mind. I mean, because if you take it out, you still have the word frequent. So I don't think that those are really your operative words. The operative words are, you know, it's got to disturb the quiet of a reasonable person. And so you could take out frequent and habitual altogether, and I still think it would operate the same way. I just think those are just additional descriptor words. I don't think those are your trigger words.
I actually like those words because I don't want somebody thinking that they're gonna be deemed harboring a nuisance because their
It's a
dog was
one-time
outside for
deal.
one time barking.
I mean, I
Disturb the
think you're-
neighbor sitting on the back
Yeah,
porch.
Because I mean, something might happen, the one-time thing I think is an exception. So I'm looking for this as a continued up pattern, is what I'm looking.
So leave those in?
Yep.
Okay, okay.
Yep. I got something before you go to your next section. No, sorry, I was going to skip past C. I was going to D because it looked to me like D and E were almost the same thing. D's basically saying that no animal scratches, digs, defecates on a long sidewalk building or any public or private property owner, charge the animal is hereby declared a nuisance. And then E is your nuisance if you don't pick it up.
I think part of that's driven towards cats, or like,
Oh.
you know, if your neighbor's cat's coming over and any dog or other animals, so your neighbor's cat is coming over and taking a poop in your garden bed, and then you watch the cat go back over the fence, I mean, your neighbor can't exactly come over and pick it up because it's in your backyard, but you need to have something that says, hey, keep your cat, you know, your cat comes over and, you know, or neighbor's dog chews through the fence, or I feel like there's a separation of in the home and then out and about is how I see that. I see like, yeah, if you're at, you know, school grounds, public property, you know, you're walking your dog and they run into this random person's yard and crap in their yard, and you're gonna go pick it up. But this other one I see is your neighbors, is kind of what I see. And I see the laundry shoved sidewalk building, private property, but you know, like I said, dogs chewing through fences, digging underneath, cats pooping in the kid's sandbox, you know, yeah, you have to go through, obviously, the officer figuring out if it is truly the neighbor's cat, but
That's just not how I read it. I had read it more along the lines of one way my dog goes and craps out here, it's a nuisance. The other way, if I pick it up, it's not, but I'm still a nuisance from the first one. So
I don't know. There's a lot going on since I wrote this.
Any dog or cat in season or in heat shall be kept property indoors.
proper.
Properly, yeah, that is a typo.
I mean, animals are considered property in the state of Wyoming, so what do you say?
Yeah, right?
Okay,
Any other discussion? Shelters, cut and dry, 5314, keeping wild animals. Affect the next three, somehow they end up with I, B, and V. They need to either just be removed and or put as like A in case we want to add things to them. Any references?
5315 is is keeping file.
Sorry, yeah, you're right. Effective 16, 17 is a number. I don't, we can always add extra sections if we need to in the future, and just remove them. Good call. Removal of dead animals required, which is 5317, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, I did put a note at the bottom. Does the governing body want to allow people to bury pets on their property?
What are the drawbacks to
Maggots, smells, flies,
Somebody doesn't dig deep enough.
if they don't dig deep enough.
Public Works has to come in and dig something up and then dig up Fire's grave.
I've got 2 cremated dogs in my backyard.
Cremated.
Yeah, that's different.
Cremated.
Cremated.
That's way different.
There's,
So-
that's the key word here. Ashes versus whole corpse.
Right, so,
I mean, generally, I'd like to let people do that, but I understand that.
See, that's what, like, I get like, if you're kind of on the outskirts of town, I get that, but
Yeah.
like in town,
Yeah, I think
I think a goldfish is a big deal,
another,
no goldfish.
And that one swims.
but like a 4-foot lizard probably be an issue.
Someone
It's a
German
discussion for you
Shepherds
guys.
or
come
they-
up right and pick it up.
Yeah,
Okay.
with the coons and the other wildlife, they come in and start digging it up and then your kids are traumatized because something came and dug up.
It was 16, but it's actually
Like,
17.
Sorry, Kyle.
17, remove that animal. Any animal dies within the town, its owner or person in charge must arrange for the animal to be buried at a location approved in advance by the animal control authority. If the owner or person's having charge of the animal neglects to remove the same within 10 hours. Part of me says if you were going to allow it, you probably would want to have distances from property lines, maybe. I don't know. It's a hot topic that,
I'm not comfortable doing it
so.
in town. I just feel like so much stuff can go wrong with it. Like, I get it. And like I said, cremated, great.
I think the issue is the ability to afford it.
Yeah.
True.
Then
Then you might end up with animals dumped there.
Yeah, I got the animal pit in the landfill. You know, too.
having a
So
burial.
you're just asking about in this one,
Having a
adding a
burial.
section about
Well,
disclosure?
I initially said no, and like, they're more particular about their pets than they are their own kids.
No, I know.
And I figured this is one they need to discuss. I mean, yeah, I put it in there.
All this one says is if the animal passes away, they can bury it, they just have to get approval in advance as to where they bury it.
I mean, does it have to be in a box and so many feet deep? But then you're like, call before you dig.
I don't know.
And that can take
I-
like 72 hours. I mean,
Well,
we gotta be
and
real
that-
here. Like my phone line runs
That's
through my
why I figured
backyard.
this is one they need to
It's
have a
got a-
discussion on that.
No,
Gotta come to approval, and we can have that discussion with.
but then you gotta call before you dig. That's another time before you do that. 'Cause you don't wanna dig something that's deep enough that the animal control officer would approve and then cut your neighbor's phone line or your gas line because, I mean, I just feel like there's too much.
So you gotta call 811 and they ask you what's your
I started
purpose of
with
the
it
day.
tonight.
I'm gonna bury my animal.
Discussion.
Now, they ask you how deep you're gonna go. You know, I mean, how long is it gonna take? You get up to 2 weeks. So is that dog gonna sit there for 2 weeks?
Exactly, what are you gonna do with your
Yeah.
dog? I feel like we should give a little more time. I think you did 10 hours. That's the only one. I think we should give, yeah, same, remove within 10 hours. I feel like, I mean, if your dog dies late at night, I mean, you're looking at call out vet charges and chaos or getting up super early in the morning. So I'm okay with like a 24-hour, like if they're gonna try to get a hold of like one of the animal companions places or it's a Sunday morning, that we just give a little bit more time.
Cause I know when I couldn't get hold of it. There was none to be had, none to be found.
And I feel like they're gonna be dealing with enough, potentially could be dealing with enough trauma of losing a family member that we don't need to give a 10-hour timeline to try to figure out what to do with the dog.
It's also not like there's a clock that starts.
Right, I just feel like 10 hours is just, I don't know,
Yeah.
24 hours,
That's fine.
just get rid
Okay.
of it.
Do you want to recruit animals? So for those who do.
I feel like you wouldn't
I
even
don't
know.
think you would
Right.
need it.
I mean, if someone
Okay.
cremates
I'm
your
not worried
animals and they
about
spread
it.
their ashes,
Okay.
you're not gonna know, like,
Yeah.
it's
So leave it at
See that size?
Gonna be in
Yep.
your
24 hours?
backyard.
24 hours.
Okay,
Your ashes.
can always adjust it later.
Yes,
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
4 hours.
Okay.
All right, easy enough. Let's see, destruction and disposal procedures. Didn't have too much there for discussion. Community cats. So 5320. This is directly from Cheyenne, dealing with the community cats that we're own, because we don't want to be catching a ton of cats. We're taking the main society that's, they've already said, nope, we don't want them. Cats tend to be free roaming, so some of the stuff you've seen in here is, so the people who have problems with free roam cats, at least we can address it as needed, obviously discretion. But under the community cat initiative, through their studies and other communities have adopted similar stuff, they're talking about essentially anybody in the community, if they catch a cat, can have it spayed and neutered, and then they have what they call ear tippings. When they're under the surgery, they take a small portion off, so that then later when they're released back to the community and they see that cat, they know that that cat's already been spayed and neutered. It's a quote community cat. So that's why I put that in here, was to help address the cat issue, and so that we're not having a ton of them showing up at our facilities. We're paying $10 for kennel fees, but we're also keeping or attempting to keep the breeding of feral cats under control.
Why do they have to be released?
Hmm?
Why do they have to go back out into the public?
Nobody wants it.
nobody
Because
wants
they're-
them, but we can't, Humane Society won't take them,
And
we're
they
talking
won't-
a lot of cats.
And they won't reproduce.
Yeah, they just won't reproduce.
So it's an overtime thing,
But they're
I
still,
think we can fix
but they
them,
still crap in everybody's yards.
yes.
For a while.
For a
But
while.
over time, we're gonna get less and less and less. Is the idea. But right now, there's really nowhere, I mean, Metro runs over, Humane Society runs over, I mean, what are we gonna do with these cats? And I don't think we should just go around and just start euthanizing them, I mean, granted, they're
That would fix-
Whatever,
that
under-
would fix
under
cat
the-
problem.
state
Cause
law,
other problems.
yeah. You know, I feel like that would just be, I don't know. And then you end up euthanizing somebody's cat that actually belongs to them, and then we have, or I don't wanna. I feel like we're just digging too deep if we do that, so doing this, we can help reduce the cat population over time. Cat,
I don't think Leo likes cats.
no.
I like cats in people's houses, it's not in my yard.
I don't think mine makes it that far.
That's why there's some of this to address people like Fire Chief Nelson back here, doesn't like cats in his yard. So that when we have people like him calling and saying, Joe's cat's in my yard, we have some means to address that as a
And
problem.
we'll large with the cats, but if it's just one of the community kitties eating mice in fields, fix them so they can't breed. Let them eat the mice.
So I guess, maybe cats, your thoughts, discussion.
Can we be sure to define that a community cat is like a cat that doesn't have an owner? When I first read this, I was like, you're gonna just catch cats and neuter them and release them back? But
I didn't ask Cheyenne how they defined it, they just left it as community cat. If
Like
cats are out, because cats can go many of blocks, so it's sometimes hard to know if that cat belongs to somebody if they're not wearing their collar or chipped, because not everybody will chip or collar them. We can put something in there, but I didn't want to tie our hands to trying to figure out if you're a cat or not.
Favorite kitty's home.
I don't know, I was looking to address the problem.
There is a provision in the ordinance that talks about the obligation of think I saw that scrolling through, that they've gotta ascertain whether it has an owner or not. I think I saw that in it. Not in the cattery section, but in a different part of the ordinances, I believe I saw something about.
Is that in the traffic? It's in traffic.
Yeah.
It's farther back.
Got a lot of pages left.
We're almost there. We're 44, 45 out of 52.
I'm good.
No, it's in here somewhere. We have a spot traffic here.
We can just make a note. for
Here it
the
is.
third
It's
final.
536, capture of dogs and cats. Maybe.
You just want to make a note for the third reading on that?
I
Sorry,
just want to make sure that people's animals are not going to be surgically altered without their consent.
Well, I think
531D says if a dog or cat is impounded at the animal control facility with a valid license attached to its collar, animal control officers will notify the owner.
you do valid license or microchip.
Yeah.
Just change that to valid license or microchip. If it doesn't have a valid license or microchip,
Does that work for you?
Yep.
So,
you chip your cats just like you chip your dogs.
we want
So
to
if they're naughty,
reference
they like to get out.
531D.
Just have microchip, and then if you scan it and it doesn't have a chip, you
Put
just
that
have
under.
to tag at that point, yeah, trap and return. And if it does have chip, you can get a hold of the owner, and if it keeps getting out and it has a chip, then you can address the animal's large thing.
All right. Meow, on the next one.
5-4.
541, kennels and catteries, so referencing back, having more than four critters. And this is where Edward, we're going to address.
Yes, accidental.
So I didn't mark any of this as discussion, so
Our zoning regulations have regulations for kennels. Where
Yeah,
they're
just- yeah.
allowed and,
If my cat gets out, it's with Joe's cat, that's my prize cat, so I don't have it fixed. I have litter, I don't want to be a kennel. That is my only thought there was. Because I want to have those little kitties and get rid of them, so I'm not going to permanently stay above our 4 number. And again, this can be adult animals, not necessarily defined.
Okay, as someone who breeds cats, and how long do you normally hang on to them?
I don't know, I just use cats as an example. I don't.
I don't know. I was, for dogs, be cats, I mean, usually you gotta, they're gone by a year, I mean, they usually go through their.
Yeah, I think usually dogs are 2 weeks, something like that.
So 6 months.
Yeah. I just wanted to have something in there that we're not forcing somebody to get a kennel fee just because they have litter puppies.
Well, I don't think, because that doesn't count, I mean, we could look at Casper's language, but they kind of have something similar, like it's a certain age.
Yeah, that'd be absolutely fine.
no more than 4 cats or dogs past the age of 6 months.
I think that's fair.
So we go
So
back
all the way back to the
to,
beginning, just no more than 4 cats or dogs over the age of 6 months. So if they got a litter of whatever,
Yeah, I think.
you have time to take care of them and do your thing without.
A, 2 A's, A, 3, okay. Alright. Adding to G, okay. I guess while we're in that section, so under I-42 cattery kennel permits, which would be section B, I put in there, permit should be $25, do you want to change that?
I feel like if we're exempting the kittens and puppies at this point, I mean, I feel like anyone that's running a kennel will be as a business. So I'm okay with that fee.
Okay, that's okay. So let's see, unless there was other discussion. Repair health records, facilities, primary closures, descriptors, housing, food, water, sanitation, that's all dealing with kennels and stuff. And then the last portion is just definitions. I don't know if
I
there's
do have something there.
Okay.
5 and 13 seem to be the same thing.
Yep.
Seem to be.
Seem to be, well.
Definitely are.
It's late, I don't know.
Yes.
Didn't read that word, but.
By golly, day is defined as, you know what, I think you're absolutely right. Look at that. Exactly the same.
Chief is just being really thorough.
This is like a point, I want to make sure I define that. right.
So, acts out 13, move 14, 15 up. Okay. Any other discussion, things you want to add into definitions? Leave it as it is, add if needed. Your headlights. Cool.
Covered a lot of ground.
Slash council meeting.
You think you're good with there?
Your first 3, 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, I
Don't
almost
have
wonder if
to-
we should come back with
The rest of
amendments.
you.
I actually wanted to,
Consider that the second reading now we've got amendments.
I wanted to bring that up anyway, because I've talked to several citizens over the last couple of weeks about this, and I've referred them, go online and read it. And since my understanding is we got it up today, I would like to table the second reading vote, so give people opportunity to read it.
Just treat this like a work session.
Yeah, 'cause if we-
Thing.
If we vote on this
It's
now.
such a significant amendment
Yeah.
that I would think moving into a third reading makes a
So
lot
we're
of
going to
sense.
make amendments and then we'll just say tabling. Just make a motion to table the second reading
Yes.
With amendments.
with amendments. Okay. Can I do that? Are we ready?
Yes.
Okay, may I have a motion to table ordinance 7-2020, second reading to the next council meeting with the new amendments.
So.
Second.
Second, any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
I'll go through it once. Catch all of them.
Now time for public comments. To our public viewers out there that are still maybe on and listening, and I'm sorry it was such a long evening. You can call into the town hall, 234-6530. Any public comments? Any public comments? Any more public comments? Okay, public comment session closed. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right, discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. At 8:50.